Welcome back to Politics Tonight. Right now, I am joined by the National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Senator Ajibola Basiru, for discussion on the state of the nation. Thank you for joining us, distinguished. Really glad to have you on the program. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, and good evening, Nigerian people.
Right. So before we get to talk about the state of the nation and all the president is currently doing, I've been wondering, how easy has it been for you to transit from a 7th senator, spokesman, then to the Senate, and then to the secretary of the ruling party?
I think it's all part of what we like call developmental, politics. And as you know, I was in the 9th, Senate. I was initially the chairman, Senate Committee on Diaspora and non-governmental, organization. About 1 year into the life of the 9th Assembly, I was appointed spokesperson and chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Publicity, and also member of several other committees of the Nigerian Senate. And of course, I was a candidate of my party, the APC, in the 2023 general election. In fact, I was unopposed in the primary of my party. But unfortunately, I lost the general election, held on February 25, and I decided to move on. I didn't even bother to challenge the election at the tribunal. August 3rd, 2023, I was fortunate to be elected by the National Executive Council of our party as the National Secretary of the party. And of course, I've had cognitive experience, both in the executive and also legislative arm. I was a 2-term commissioner in my state, Osun State, Commissioner for Regional Integration and Special Duties, and later on Attorney General Commissioner for Justice before going to the Senate. And of course, I also had a robust, private practice experience as a legal practitioner, an academic, and also a contributor to national debate. And I believe that coming into the party at this time has also afforded the party the opportunity of my experience in being able to work to get the party restructured in terms of getting it prepared, not only for the oncoming off-season election, but ahead of the 2027 election. And it's been a very nice and worthy experience working with seasoned politicians like our chairman, national chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Obaru Ganduje, and eminent personalities from diverse background in the National Working Committee of the party. But I must also say that I express my gratitude to the leaders of our party, particularly the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, and of course, my leaders in Osun, Baba Bisi Akonde, and former governor, now Minister, Agboyega Oyetola, for the confidence they have in me and being able to put me forward. And of course, the Nigerian Governors Forum under leadership of Governor Hope Uzodinma for their confidence, as well as leadership of National Assembly for their confidence that I'll be able to discharge that onerous responsibility of heading the secretariat of the ruling party, and as we say among ourselves, the largest party in the continent of Africa.
So let's talk about Ondo State. The APC leadership recently waded into the attempt to impeach the deputy governor of Ondo State. So how far has the party gone with resolving this?
There has been substantial progress in addressing some of the salient issues in that regard. Although I may not be able to give details because it may prejudice some of the work that we are doing. But suffice to say that politics is about conflict, resolution of conflict, and of course aggregation of diverse interests. And of course, as a political party, we are doing our best to be able to identify, then be able to aggregate the different contending interests in the Ondo politics. So it's a matter of time that we'll see amicable resolution of the issues in that regard, particularly as we are preparing for primaries for the governorship election in Ondo and Edo State, latest by April next year. So I'm optimistic that the efforts being made both in public and also in private, discourse, will be able to ensure that all contending interests, all issues are resolved in a way that the party in Ondo State comes out, stronger from the present, issues that we have.
All right, so let me ask you this before we move on. If the deputy governor agrees to withdraw his lawsuits against the State House of Assembly, are you confident that the Assembly will drop the impeachment plans?
I've been able to tell you that I won't want to go into so much details. Politics is a marathon and not a sprint. So there are so many processes involved. Just as the deputy governor has a case before the Federal High Court, we also know that the respondent, the state government, have also filed an appeal. So going into the nitty-gritty of what to withdraw first and who to withdraw and so on and so forth on the national, television, with respect, may smack of irresponsibility as an administrator within the party. Suffice to say is that we'll do our best to ensure that we resolve the matter in an amicable situation, and ensuring that it's a win-win situation for the different contending parties in the Ondo politics.
All right, then. So let's get to our discussion for today. It's been 5 months since President Tinubu assumed office as the president of this great country. How will you describe the journey so far?
I would say that the journey has been very tough, very challenging. And, of course, there are a lot of, rough edges that the president and the administration is, working, upon. And, of course, as a participant in the, party and the government activity, I would say that all is not, in the places that we want it to be. But we are very optimistic that by the time the efforts being put into being able to restructure our economy, ensuring that we make Nigeria attractive to investors, and of course, rejuvenate the productive sector, at the end of the day, we'll be able to say that we are moving the country in the right direction. Of course, one of the several challenges that face this administration at inception has to do with the state of even the global economy. You will discover that the global pandemic of COVID affected drastically all economies in the world. So Nigeria itself is not isolated. We also have a lot of dysfunctionality in our economy, which is occasioned, one, by the first subsidy regime, which is taking a large chunk of resources that ought to be available for infrastructure development, for galvanizing the economy, and addressing the welfare of the people. We also have a situation whereby a large amount of our foreign reserves is also going to support the Naira and in the international market. These are part of challenges that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to confront immediately. We are still smarting to get out of the symptoms of these challenges. But in the long run, we are very optimistic that the country will be able to go back to the path of productivity, which will assist in strengthening our currency. We also are optimistic that Nigeria will become an attractive place for investment, and therefore the diversification that is necessary so that we will not be relying too much on the oil and gas sector will also catalyze in development of our people. And of course, some of the challenges that we also are facing presently is in terms of food security and sustainability of prices of agriculture and commodity exchange in the country. And these are also areas that the country, the government is also working in that regard. Of course, I must also mention the problem that we have in terms of revenue for government. Most of the time, people outside the government often refer to the need to allocate money to certain sectors and this sector and so sector. But in reality, we must address the question of revenue. So we need to de-emphasize revenue from the oil sector. And I think that is why Mr. President set up an interdisciplinary committee in the area of tax revenue, so that we'll be able to address, the inadequacy of revenue that is bedefiling the realization of development, of our people. And of course, the president has also set up, teams and personnel in different, sector to be able to ensure that we make use of the best brain in every aspect of our public life, irrespective of their ethnic origin or religious, affiliation.
Distinguished, because it was a transition of power from the same APC, former President Muhammadu Buhari governed for 8 years under this same party. So it's understandable when people thought things would have been easier for this new administration. But why does governance appear tough for the administration of President Tinubu?
I will say that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, yes, is an offshoot of our political party. But largely from the way Mr. President took off on that momentous day, 29th of May 2023, is a reform government. And when you have a reform government, the fact that you are an offshoot of the previous administration does not make it easy for you to be able to take off. And what Mr. President is doing, and he made a very bold statement, that it is better for him for now to seem as unpopular, but then be able to lay a solid foundation for the advancement of our country. It is meritorious. So, and you also know, if you follow the pattern of the governance style of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, in the first 1 or 2 years of his administration in Lagos, he appeared not to be popular, but by the time the effort he had put in place in the area of environmental sanitation, traffic decongestion, in the area of public-private partnership in infrastructure development came to reality, people began to give salutary kudos to him. So I'm very optimistic that the present challenges the administration is facing in terms of putting the right policies and the right programs and the right approach to financing public infrastructure, will be able to say at the end of the day that this man meant very well and he has acted not for his own personal adulation, but for the purpose of the general interest of the Nigerian people. And you see that one of the areas that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had put in place is the area of policy coordination, whereby there will be key performance index for each of the ministries, departments, and agencies of government, and there will be timelines for those deliveries, and there will also be certain measures and parameters to measure whether those set goals are being achieved. I think these are part of the reform that the administration is doing to ensure that we have a better approach to governance in the country.
Right. So it's evident that Nigerians are going through economic hardship and citizens are asking questions. How much longer do you think the country can begin to witness some relief?
I must here on behalf of our party say that we sincerely sympathize with the challenges that our fellow Nigerians who are our brothers, sisters, family members are facing presently. But then we must be able to also say that some of these challenges are necessary in order for us not to go into an economic quagmire in the nearest future. You remember that Venezuela was also one time all-rich nation. The same thing with Argentina. But when certain policies were not put in place at the appropriate time, that led to serious consequences adversely affecting the populace in those countries. So we definitely feel that yes, there are present challenges in terms of inflation, in terms of accessibility, and of course the purchasing power of our people. But in the long run, by the time the increment of the wage of the workers are worked upon, by the time the infrastructure development project fully come on board, and by the time the country is able, with the reform being done in the area of the macro economy comes to fruition, we're able to attract foreign investors and develop the risk sector of our economy. Some of these challenges will definitely become a bit. But of course, I don't have power of clairvoyance. I cannot say that this is the cutoff date for which we'll be able to, have overcome this. Life itself is a continuum, is challenging, and the ability of any, leader is to be able to confront head-on with any challenge and give a pathway for further development and prosperity of his people.
So because the major issue which compounded this suffering we're talking about is fuel subsidy removal, do you think the president made a mistake in removing the subsidy so early?
He did not make any mistake about subsidy. If assuming the subsidy had not been removed, I doubt whether the country would not have gone under in terms of being, practically, insolvent. You will, know that under the 2023 appropriation, even the National Assembly, when one in the 9th Assembly, we did not make any provision beyond end of June 2023 for subsidy removal, because what is being used for removal of for subsidy is actually in excess of what goes into capital, expenditure of governance. And you know that when you are not spending on capital expenditure and you are even borrowing money to sustain the subsidy regime, you are not only depleting your foreign reserves, you are also creating a dysfunctionality that would ultimately, wreck, the country. Yes, tough decisions are supposed to be taken, and the president has decided to take that very tough, decision. Of course, as Robert Sula said, tough times never last, but tough people, do.
So let's talk about another issue. This is the sliding value of the naira. Why is the administration finding it so hard to check this?
You see, the question of naira, I would say that I'm largely handicapped in many respects. I'm not, a core expert in economy, not talk of monetary, policy, but from available literature, which, is generally, available, there are so many decisions that government, will have to take. From what I read, I understand, maybe rightly or correctly, that in the previous, period before naira is floated, at least about $1.5 billion are spent monthly to be able to sustain, the artificial price, of naira. And then there is also the problem of whether the country will be attractive to any investor who, very well may not be able to repatriate, their investment, or when they want to so repatriate, they are going to lose a large, value in that regard. So a balancing has to be made in whether you want to continue to deplete our foreign reserves, or we want to make our country to become disincentive to investment, or we want to confront this problem. This is apart even from the fraud and corruption regime that the what I call subsidy of the naira is also causing. And the disincentive to investment and practical productivity can be seen in this way. If somebody able to get a dollar at 410 naira, then there's a black market where you can take it for 710 naira, and such people getting 100 of millions of dollars. What incentive do you really have to engage in productive economy? Those are issues. Then we also have the fact that our productive sector is also challenged, and that is why one of the focus of this administration should be and is in the area of energy, because the cost of production itself will be reduced if we're able to tackle headlong the problem of energy, and then the huge amount of money being used on alternative source of energy apart from the electricity provided by the various discos would also be able to help small, middle scale, and even large industry to be able to produce to the level of productivity. And of course, you know that some of the building block for industrialization and productivity is steel production. As reading today, I learned that Ajaokuta steel production steel complex is between 92 and 98% completion. Of course, with a steel industry, you are really going to the path of a productive economy.
All right, distinguished. Yes, I know you're not an economist, but you just answered this question like an economist. So one more. I'm sure you know the CBN recently lifted the restrictions on Forex for 43 items. And many experts say this move will be counterproductive and will destroy local industries. Do you agree?
You see, there are always, policy choices that you have to make. Do you want, within the context of African Free Continental Trade Agreement, which Nigeria is a signatory to and we're a party to, even if those, restrictions were not removed, to the extent that you have a free trade, regime within the continent, of Africa, then you will be doing disservice for yourself when you are still engaging in, restricting international, trade. That means that some other competitors within the African continent will take the benefit, and then you will be, at a loss in this regard. Then when it comes to policy, choices, there are always pros and cons for every policy choices. And I believe that those in the CBN, and of course, getting the approval of the people in charge of the economy, making that decision, they're also not, neophytes, and they could not be charged to be people who will act in a way consciously inimical to the economic development and growth of our country.